The Army didn't really care what your degree was in. They decided that if you went through training to become an engineer, then you had the base logical training to perform the task that they needed. So I believe my designation was 21 Delta. Well, it was 21 Delta, which just meant degreed engineer. When we deployed, whether it was a partial team, a full team, and got into theater, got ourselves set up and established, and people found out what we could do for them, they were happy we were there, because we could provide, some of the really simple, basic comforts that you take for granted when you're at home. A hot shower, an actual kitchen where people cooked food instead of big tins of reheated things or MREs, latrines. Latrines were always an issue because burn barrels and cat holes are okay for a while, but they get pretty old. I don't know, for those that don't know what those are very labor-intensive and unpleasant ways to take care of waste. But yeah, and not only that, but we could build more comfortable places and safer places to live, to sleep. You didn't have to worry quite so much about what was going on outside because you were in a more hardened facility to sleep in. And we built a lot of bunkers, because we'd show up places and there were sandbags in place, but we'd set up and either find local providers or set up our own batch plants and make concrete and pour concrete bunkers and, just make it more safe and secure. Perimeters, improving perimeters so that you didn't have to worry about encroachment, especially in the hours of the wee morning and things of that nature. So we could come in and just improve life in general.
So I have to imagine that people were happy to see you when you showed up.
Well, when they found out who we were, yeah, they really were, because one of the things we did when we came to your area is we made sure you had power and water and a place to take a shower.
Yeah.
And, a lot of those guys have been weeks, if not longer, without a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
So everyone, after they found out what we actually did, we were always welcome.
Yeah, I can imagine.
When Desert Storm started and I had the firefighting unit that was out in Kansas, they painted their trucks desert camo and put us on 24-hour alert. And so I was waiting to go, waiting for the orders to drop. And they didn't. And at the time I was single, and I guess in truth I was kind of disappointed that we didn't get called, because that's what you train for, and that's what you feel like you're meant to do. So that passed, and I went from that unit to the 416th Engineer Group, and I started working with all the folks within that organization that spread across the whole United States. And I started talking to the personnel director at the headquarters up in Fort McCoy. And we were talking on the phone. I'd done some drill duties and I was getting some stuff straightened out. He said, "Hey, there's a deployment or a thing coming up in Haiti where we're sending, just a couple guys from the 416th down there." He said, "The boss hasn't really picked anybody out yet." He said, "What do you think about that sort of thing?" And I said, "Well, that sounds pretty interesting." So I said, yeah, tell the boss, after I talked to my wife, I said, tell the boss, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. I'll volunteer for that. And I went down. I had 2 NCOs with me. We did a lot of really interesting and great stuff. And I guess I got it in my blood. Got kind of hooked on it. Every once in a while, every couple of years, the warrant officer up at Fort McCoy would give me a call. He'd say, hey, there's a team getting deployed to Kosovo, but it's not a full team and they need another guy to go with them. What do you think? I'd talk to my wife. I'd say, yeah, sign me up for that. That sounds like an interesting trip. And, you know, after a while, it kind of got to the point where when a team was getting deployed and it was hard to fill the teams, keep them full all the time because, you know, they were all supposed to be degreed engineers, couldn't always find them. And teams always had open spots. And they'd call me up and say, hey, would you like to, you know, come with us to Afghanistan? We need a guy that's gonna take care of, you know, this base over there that no one's worked on yet. What do you think? And I'd talk to the wife and she'd say, yeah. And so I'd sign up. So, you know, in the end, I ended up volunteering for 6 deployments and, you know, a lot of other civilian work where we went around and did some engineering work in South Korea and things of that nature. And I just kind of got addicted. And my wife one time said to me, she said, you know, you were born about 150 years too late. She said, I think you probably would have been that guy that took off out west, made a dugout up in the mountains, trapped all year, came down to town once a day for coffee and beans, or once a year for coffee and beans, and then wandered back up in the hills for more adventure. She said, it's been kind of a tough road to hoe sometimes, but she knew that that was something that I needed, was the, you know, it's not just adventure, it's adventure with a purpose, because you're doing something that needs to be done, supporting your country, supporting the troops, supporting the locals, and it was addictive. I think the scariest time I ever got in a chopper, though, was it was one of the first times I rode in a Chinook. And that was in Macedonia. I hate to keep jumping back and forth, but I got in a Chinook in Macedonia because the terrorists had blocked, there was only one road route up into Kosovo, and it had 7 tunnels on it. So it was pretty easy to take over. And the terrorists took it over for about a month, and we had to do everything by air into Kosovo. And I was going up to take care of some hospital stuff that we were building up there. And I got in this Chinook, I sat in the back, and you know, the warrant officers on those things are the chiefs and stuff. They got a good sense of humor. And I sat down and I looked up and there was a soup can taped, wired up underneath a hose in the back of the aircraft, right next to my head. Chopper starts up, they're loud, Chinooks are, you know,
Yeah.
two big props going around, I can't hardly hear. And the chief comes back, he's screaming in my ear, he goes, hey, if this stops dripping, tell me right away. Because there was hydraulic fluid dripping into the can. And I'm thinking, we're going over an 11,000 foot mountain range to get in. And I'm supposed to watch this hydraulic oil because if it stopped dripping, it meant it ran out. So that was kind of a scary trip.
Nerve-wracking, huh?
Oh, shoot. When I showed up in Jalalabad, it was myself and one warrant officer. That was it. We brought in a team of 7, but we were scattered all over the country. And luckily, the warrant officer's civilian job had been concrete. So I guess the easiest way to say it is, at that base in particular, we did a bunch of little test projects, and we invited in all of the local contractors we could get. And we let them all have contracts, and then we taught them how to build according to Western standards. And we found out very quickly that their concrete workers showed up with a trowel. That's all they used,
Yeah.
right? So we had to teach them how to work massive pours of concrete, because in the end we poured 13 acres of concrete.
Wow.
We built a fully functional heliport and made everything functional on the flight line. And I got to tell you that those crews loved that warrant officer to no end, because he taught them skills that they had never had before.
That's amazing.
Then we came up with the design for a building with locally materials from Pakistan and Russia that we could get. And we built basically hard stand buildings that were bunkers. And we were able to surge in all the troops. At the end of that year, we were able to surge in all the troops.
Wow.
Wow.
5,000?
Yeah, yeah.
Amazing.
I mean, we had that. We didn't bring in that many troops while I was on site, but the capability was
there to do it.
Right.
Amazing.
During all that time, we also would hop on a Blackhawk and go up into the Korengal Valley and do what we could. There are a lot of combat outposts all along through that area. The biggest base before you got to the combat outpost at that time was called Blessing. So we'd come into Blessing and talk to the commander there and find out what needed done at the combat outposts. And then we'd gather the expertise or materials or whatever we needed, and we'd fly out. And we never convoyed because it was just too slow. We just couldn't get to where we needed to go and take care of all of the people we needed to take care of, so we always flew. But we'd go, and because they had folks that weren't necessarily certain what they were doing, setting up generator sets, and there were people getting hurt.
Yeah, it's
getting
dangerous, yeah.
shocked trying to take a shower, things
Right.
like that, because they didn't have proper grounding and all kinds of stuff of that nature. So we spent, not only did we build that great big air base there in Jalalabad, but we spent a great deal of time going and hitting combat outposts and take care of them too. And I got to tell you, it was a busy year.
Yeah, it
I was
sounds like it.
tired. I was tired when that one was done. So I picked up stuff really everywhere I went, brought it back, and I don't want to take too much time to talk about that kind of stuff, but like when I was in Haiti, not a lot of natural resources down there for them to work with. And they'd been under an embargo before we showed up. Gas on the black market down there, the only way you could get it when we showed up, $50 a gallon.
Oh my gosh, are you kidding me?
No kidding. So they had whatever local materials they had. And so, they'd pick rocks up out of the river and carve them.
Wow.
And they'd
Make things.
make things out of locally available materials, wood. I've got some nice wood carvings that they made. But, I got this. I sent
That's
this
really
to my
cool.
wife. It's, I don't know if
Two
you can
people
see.
hugging.
Yeah, a couple people hugging. Stuff like that.
That's cool.
I give them, probably an exorbitant amount to them.
Right.
But, give them something they can use. Money,
Yeah.
materials, goods. And so in every country I went, I'd try to work with locals whenever I could. I mean, we ended up negotiating with a lot of them for big contracts when we built stuff on their land or their properties. But, it was the common guy in the street that didn't have anything that I really wanted to work with the most.
At the local level.
And so this
Grassroots.
is, local Haitian, found a river rock, carved it out.
That's
I
amazing.
gave him $5. He was happier than all get out. And, I have a memento that means a lot to me about where I've been.
Yeah, that's really cool.
So, just little things like that. I brought this because this was kind of fun the first round in Afghanistan, when we got there, there was no recreational activities really available, right?
Okay.
I mean, you're there, it's a bare base, you're trying to get it built up, and people need something to do other than work all the time. And you can only play so many games of hearts or spades, you know.
Yeah.
So by that time, I'd had some local interpreters that were working for me, and I asked one of them to go out in the local town and find a blacksmith. And I gave him a sketch and a piece of paper, and I had the blacksmith make tomahawks.
Wow, cool.
So we all had tomahawks. And in the evenings, when things would quiet down a little bit, we had a little bit of time. We had a couple big stumps out behind the tent.
You go throw a
And
tomahawk?
we'd go have little competitions, you know, amongst ourselves or within groups.
That's
and
cool.
we'd have tomahawk competitions. And this guy even, I asked the interpreter to have him stamp his name on it, and so that's even stamped in Arabic on there. You
Wow.
can see where the blacksmith,
Yeah.
and that was just kind of,
That's
you know,
really
that's
neat.
neat.
Yeah.
So I got
And this is something they'd probably never seen before. You know what I mean?
Well,
It's-
they had, of course, their own hand tools, but
Yeah.
a tomahawk, no.
No.
I don't think so. You know,
Wow.
they had hatchets and axes and things, but
that's
so
really neat.
stuff like that. I don't know if the locals ever copied it for their own use for anything, but you know, it's a smaller chunk of metal,
Yeah.
and I don't know if you've ever thrown tomahawks.
It's
really
fun.
is. It's kind of fun. It's
difficult,
like
too.
big boy darts.
Yeah,
you know?
right.
So everybody had fun doing that. You can even see on some of these, this one doesn't have it because I didn't actually use this one. I saved one nice one, but they all have chops in the back of them
From
where
where they
we were
hit.
hitting each other's tomahawks and blowing up the handles. I had to get like a dozen handles made for everybody because we were
Chopping each other's
chopping
handles,
each
huh?
other's stuff up and everything we were throwing, but that was great. And everywhere we went, I tried to find something local, and I sent stuff back to the family, of course, and a lot of it was just for my own. I like objects instead of pictures.
Yeah.
Pictures you look at generally like in a book. Objects you can
You can hold and touch
hold,
and feel.
touch,
Yeah.
put around. You could still use them.
Yeah.
I still throw tomahawks every once in a
ya?
while just because I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I got kind of good at it when I was there. So, you know, that helped ease too, kind of being away from home. You're not just interacting with troops all the time. You're working, talking with local people, and working with them and helping them out. And
Gave you a sense of
it
purpose.
gave you a good feeling. You know?
Good.